Hello, I'm Claire from Alabaré. As our charity celebrates our 30th anniversary, I recently caught up with our Chief Executive, Andrew Lord, to talk about his role and to look at some of his highlights from across those years. How long have you been Chief Executive at Alabaré, Andrew?
It will be 21 years this year as Chief Executive.
And how did you come to work in the charity sector?
I went and worked in a local authority as a trainee accountant before moving across to a housing association subsidiary. What that charitable subsidiary in the Portsmouth area did was absolutely wonderful. And then once I left them, I came to Alabaré.
What attracted you to Alabaré as a charity?
I met the then chairman, John Proctor, and he explained the history of the organisation, what it was looking to achieve, and the trustees' plans for the future then. And it was an incredibly exciting vision, and I wanted to be part of that vision.
What would you say motivates you every day?
The first thing is what the charity does in terms of supporting the vulnerable, the marginalised, the homeless in our communities. It's just amazing. The second part of it is that we've got a wonderful staff team who are providing that care and support as well. And they are a great group of people who work incredibly hard to work with the vulnerable. The charity hasn't stood still over the last 21 years. We have to adapt, we have to change, and that's exciting as well.
What would you say, Andrew, as an individual, your particular skills are that you bring to the Alabaré team?
So part of the role of Chief Executive is always looking at the finances of the organisation. The second part is that we've got a great team of colleagues, and it's supporting them to achieve their work as well. So it's working with that team to ensure that we achieve the strategic plan, the objectives of the organisation. And the third part really is act as a sort of ambassador for the organisation as well. What this organisation does, it is absolutely superb. We don't always get everything right, but we get a lot of things right, and it's a good story to be telling. And therefore, part of my role as Chief Executive is that telling of that important story.
How would you say your approach has changed in the last 21 years?
When I joined the organisation, we had 25 paid staff and 40 volunteers, and we were just in Salisbury, to an organisation that's operating across the whole of southwest of England and Wales. So that geographical expansion brings new challenges. The fact that we're a much bigger organisation has also brought new challenges as well. And I think the other thing is that when I look back over the 21 years, standards have had to improve across the whole charitable sector. And then for us at Alabaré and other organisations are continually looking to improve the standards of service we provide as well.
What would you say are the biggest challenges faced by charities at the moment, and are there specific ones that Alabaré faces?
I think firstly, and this has partly been influenced by COVID, is that we are seeing that continual increase in the complexity of our clients, the challenges, the needs that they have to be met. I think the second challenge that we face is the financial challenge. There isn't sufficient money to do everything that we would like to do, but that there are important things that we need to do as well. And the third challenge is to keep the workforce, motivated, focused, and so on. We have a great group of colleagues in the organisation, but we have to continually work on supporting them to carry out the difficult work that they do.
What would you say are 2 or 3 highlights from the last 21 years as CEO?
I think I would define them into 2 groups really. I think when I hear the stories of how individuals within our homes and services have addressed their issues, have developed, have moved on to have a fulfilling life, that always is a great highlight. And we have those stories every week, which is wonderful. Another big highlight that it was the whole redevelopment of the old Damascus House hostel in Salisbury. That was a kind of transformation of an old hostel into a purpose-built hostel for the homeless in Salisbury. So that was a big, exciting project as well. And looking forward, the organisation is starting to do more work, specifically looking at the mental health needs of our service users, of the communities that we're working in as well. And that's an exciting new piece of work that's currently going on.
You talked about some highlights there. Is there anything that you can pick out as your proudest moment in particular?
I think the whole Damascus House redevelopment into Alabaré Place 10 years ago was a very exciting initiative. Represented a major improvement in the quality of services that we could offer the homeless in Salisbury. Another proud moment, and this is going back to the early days of the charity, was back in 2003. So at that point in time, the organisation was a Salisbury-based organisation, but there was a particular initiative that came out from government, and we worked with many partner agencies, and literally the organisation transformed itself from a Salisbury organisation to an organisation working across the whole of the southwest of England. And that came about because there was a need in all those communities that we were working in to be addressed, lots of vulnerable people, but also there were lots of individuals and organisations we worked with who came together to make it happen. And there was a spectacular few days in March 2003 where the organisation opened a dozen new homes in Salisbury, in Calne, in Bristol, Chippenham and Clevedon and so on, to actually really deliver great services to the vulnerable. So that was a good moment as well.
I'm interested to know whether you think homeless people get an unfair press.
Yes, I do think homeless people get an unfair press. I think at times, they have a particular set of needs. They have particular complex issues that have to be addressed. But they are a group of people that we have to support, and therefore, it's a case of organisations like Alabaré working with the homeless to address those needs as well. I don't believe there's any other choice other than to do that, and therefore, when some of the newspapers focus on the negative aspects of homeless people or rough sleeping, I'd much rather see a story about how does people at Alabaré, how does other organisations come together to support this very vulnerable group of people.
And how would you say as a society we can change the future for disadvantaged adults and young people?
We must change the future for disadvantaged people, for vulnerable young people. At the end of the day, we have a moral responsibility to support them. We want them to have that fulfilling life, the same fulfilling life that we have ourselves. To do that, it is about greater investment in the services, in the care that they need. Okay, government has to take a lead, but also society needs to do its bit as well. And it's also about being courageous and recognising that services have to change as well. So what worked, when I joined Alabaré 21 years ago, may not work now, and therefore all organisations have got to change what they do, what they deliver in order to meet that changing need.
So how can I, as an individual, help Alabaré to change the lives of disadvantaged people?
You could decide to volunteer for the organisation. We have 200 plus amazing volunteers who provide their time to the organisation. You could become an employee. We're always looking for great people. You could make a donation to the charity. This organisation each year needs to fundraise approximately £2 million per year. So we need the financial support from our supporters. Or, for those of you who have a faith background, you could pray for the work of the organisation as well. So there's lots of different ways that you could take part. I just encourage you to step forward.
Lovely, thanks, Andrew. And finally, if you could have one wish for Alabaré, what would it be?
My one wish for Alabaré would actually that we become redundant, because if we can ensure that all the homeless have housing and the support that they need, if we can ensure that all vulnerable people can have that fulfilling life that they want, if we could ensure as a society there was no poverty, then organisations like Alabaré don't need to exist, and that would be a good day.
Thanks, Andrew.